The way you react in public moments says more about your inner strength than anything you claim with words. When someone raises their voice at you, when the situation becomes tense, or when you feel your emotions rising faster than your thoughts, you face a choice that can shape how people see you and how you see yourself. Many people lose control in these moments because the pressure feels too strong, the noise feels too loud, or the emotion feels too heavy. They react without thinking, and later they wonder why they said things they didn't mean or behaved in ways that do not reflect who they want to be. This audiobook is designed to guide you toward a different path, one where you stay steady even when others try to pull you into chaos, one where you protect your peace even when tension fills the air, and one where you choose clarity instead of impulse. You will learn how your mind works under pressure, how emotions rise inside your body, and how you can slow everything down long enough to make thoughtful decisions. As you move through these chapters, you will discover practical ways to pause before reacting, manage your tone, control your presence, and step back when the moment becomes too much. You will learn to recognize the early signs of overwhelm, understand what triggers your reactions, and build habits that support calm behavior in public situations. This journey is not about pretending you do not feel anything. It is about learning how to guide your emotions so they do not guide you. Once you understand how to hold yourself together during difficult interactions, you begin to feel stronger, clearer, and more in control of your life. People notice this shift. They see the way you stay steady when situations become uncomfortable. They see the way you handle conflict without raising your voice. They see the way you think before you act. This earns you respect, trust, and influence in a natural way. What you are about to hear will challenge you in a good way. It will help you raise your standards, improve your relationships, and build a calmer mind. And as you go deeper into each chapter, you may even notice that you start handling everyday situations differently, choosing patience instead of pressure, choosing silence instead of argument, choosing peace instead of reaction. If you have ever wished you could stay calm when it matters most, if you have ever felt frustrated by your own reactions, if you want to understand yourself better and carry yourself with confidence in public moments, then stay with this audiobook. The answers you've been searching for are here, and what you learn may change the way you move through the world. Chapter 1. Control reactions by choosing calm when pressure rises. Choosing calm when pressure rises is one of the most important skills a person can develop because it shapes the way they move through the world, the way they handle conflict, and the way they protect the quality of their daily life. Many people react the moment something provokes them. They speak fast, act fast, and make choices that come from fear, insecurity, and frustration instead of clarity. They do this because they were never taught how to slow down their inner world when the outer world becomes loud. This chapter exists to change that cycle and give the reader the strength to stay steady even when tension rises around them. Calm is not something that appears on its own. Calm is built through choices, habits, and awareness. When pressure rises, the mind tries to defend itself. It tries to fight, explain, defend, or escape. This instant pull toward reaction is automatic for many people, but automatic does not mean unchangeable. Every person has the ability to interrupt the pattern, take ownership of their state, and bring calm into the moment even when the moment feels heavy. True control comes from understanding that pressure does not force anyone to react. Pressure invites a reaction, but the individual decides whether to accept that invitation. The first step in choosing calm is understanding what happens inside the body and mind when pressure rises. The heart rate speeds up, the muscles tighten, the voice becomes louder or sharper, the mind feels crowded, and thoughts rush forward without organization. The body prepares to defend because it senses danger, but most daily pressure is not danger. It is conversation, disagreement, misunderstanding, deadlines, or expectations. When the body reacts as if the situation is dangerous, the mind tries to match it with equally intense actions and words. This is what causes outbursts, emotional reactions, and choices that later bring regret. Understanding this process gives the reader the power to interrupt it. A person cannot control something they do not understand. Once they see how their mind and body respond to pressure, they can begin to rebuild a new pattern. Calm begins with awareness. Calm starts the moment a person notices their chest tightening, their breathing shortening, or their shoulders rising. Calm grows when the person acknowledges the pressure instead of pretending it is not there. Many people force themselves to ignore their rising emotions, but ignoring is not control. Ignoring only delays the reaction until it bursts out later. True calm comes from facing the feeling directly. When a person can say to themselves, "Pressure is rising inside me," they create space between the emotion and the response. That space is where change begins. In that space, the reader can choose what kind of person they want to be in this moment. That choice shapes the entire outcome. When a difficult situation hits, many rush to speak. They defend themselves before they hear the full story. They argue before the other person finishes their sentence. They raise their voice because they feel the other person's tone rising. This reactive pattern is common, but it is not healthy. The strongest person in a tense moment is not the one who speaks the loudest. The strongest person is the one who remains grounded enough to think clearly. Calm does not mean weakness. Calm means control. When a person becomes calm in the middle of rising pressure, they hold the advantage. They can see the situation clearly, understand the emotions involved, and respond with intention instead of emotion. Building this skill requires practice. Calm is not created in one day. Every time the reader faces a difficult moment, they get another chance to strengthen their ability to stay grounded. A simple way to begin is by controlling the breath. When pressure rises, the breath becomes shallow. Slowing the breath tells the mind that danger is not present. When the breath slows, the mind slows. When the mind slows, the reaction weakens. This is a physical decision that creates an emotional change. A person who learns to slow their breath before responding gives themselves the power to guide the moment rather than be guided by it. They give themselves a chance to speak from clarity rather than frustration. Another important step is learning to identify personal triggers. Everyone has certain topics, tones, or behaviors that make their stress rise instantly. Some people react to disrespect, some react to being misunderstood, some react to raised voices, some react to criticism. Once a person knows their triggers, they can prepare themselves. Trigger awareness does not remove the trigger, but it removes the surprise. When the trigger appears, the person can say internally, "This is one of the things that usually makes me react. I need to slow down now." This simple acknowledgement breaks the automatic pattern. The reader becomes conscious instead of reactive. The moment the pattern is interrupted, calm becomes possible. Calm also comes from understanding what is within personal control and what is not. Many public outbursts come from people trying to control situations they cannot control. They want others to agree with them. They want others to think like them. They want others to change instantly. When someone does not meet these expectations, they react. Learning to stay calm means accepting that other people's behavior is not the reader's responsibility. A person can control their words, their tone, their posture, their behavior, and their decisions. They cannot control the behavior of strangers, colleagues, family members, or anyone else. Once a person shifts their focus back to what they can control, they naturally become calmer. They stop wasting energy trying to change people and start using that energy to lead themselves. There will always be moments when pressure rises unexpectedly. Perhaps a stranger speaks rudely, or a co-worker criticizes unfairly, or a family member interrupts with a harsh tone. These moments are not meant to bring the reader down. These moments are opportunities to practice the skill they have been building. When a person chooses calm in an unexpected moment, they walk away feeling stronger. They prove to themselves that their reactions no longer control them. This internal strength grows each time they succeed. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. The reader will not stay calm every time. What matters is that they try again the next time and continue growing their ability to manage pressure with grace. Choosing calm also improves communication. When a person responds slowly instead of rushing to speak, they give themselves time to understand the other side. Calm listening reduces misunderstandings. Calm responses open the door to healthy discussion. Calm presence makes others feel safe and respected. These rewards encourage the person to continue practicing calm behavior. Calm also protects relationships. Many relationships are damaged not by long-term issues but by short moments of uncontrolled reaction. A single outburst can create deep wounds that take months or years to heal. When a person chooses calm, they prevent these unnecessary wounds. They protect the emotional health of the people they care about. They communicate respect even in disagreement. Calm is also a form of self-respect. When a person reacts without thinking, they give control to the situation. They allow the moment to decide how they behave. This weakens their sense of identity. A person who stays calm shows themselves that they are bigger than the pressure around them. They show themselves that they can stay steady even when emotions rise inside them. This builds pride and confidence. The more they choose calm, the more they see themselves as someone who can handle life without being pushed around by stress. This is a powerful shift that transforms the way they live each day. Another important part of choosing calm is strengthening the inner voice. The way a person speaks to themselves during stressful moments has a huge influence on their behavior. A weak inner voice says things like, "I cannot handle this is too much," or "I need to react right now." A strong inner voice says, "I can slow down, I can handle this, and I decide how I respond." The inner voice becomes stronger through practice. Each time the reader chooses calm, their inner voice grows. It begins to guide them, reminding them that they have control even when the moment feels heavy. This inner guidance becomes a lifelong tool for emotional intelligence. Calm also requires the removal of ego. Many reactions come from ego, not from reason. When the ego feels attacked, it wants to defend itself. When the ego feels judged, it wants to prove itself. When the ego feels misunderstood, it wants to fight for clarity. But ego-based reactions rarely help the situation. They usually create more damage. A person who wants to choose calm must learn to see beyond their ego. They must ask themselves, is this situation worth losing my peace over? Most of the time, the answer is no. Calm allows a person to step away from ego and see the bigger picture. Calm helps them choose peace over pride. This decision leads to better outcomes in every area of life. The reader also needs to understand that calm is not about hiding emotions. Calm is not suppression. Calm is control. Suppression means pushing emotions down and pretending they do not exist. Suppressed emotions build up, and eventually they come out with even more force. Calm means acknowledging emotions without being controlled by them. Calm means recognizing anger, frustration, or fear, and then choosing to guide those emotions rather than let them guide behavior. This healthy relationship with emotion creates emotional maturity. Emotional maturity brings balance, clarity, and strength. One powerful way to build calm is by creating a small pause before reacting. This pause can be 1 second or 3 seconds or 5 seconds. This short moment gives the brain time to shift from emotional impulse to conscious choice. During this pause, the person can breathe, observe, and ask themselves what kind of response will lead to the best outcome. This pause feels small, but it carries huge power. It is the difference between reacting and responding. It is the difference between escalation and resolution. It is the difference between regret and growth. Calm also comes from building daily habits that reduce overall stress. When a person's mind is overcrowded, small issues feel bigger. When a person is tired, hungry, overwhelmed, or overstimulated, they react faster. This is why physical habits matter as much as emotional habits. Getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, eating in a balanced way, moving the body, and resting the mind are not small details. These habits influence emotional stability. A calm life creates a calm mind. A calm environment supports calm reactions. The reader can support their emotional strength by treating their physical health with care. Another part of choosing calm is learning how to step away when needed. Many people think they must respond immediately to every comment or challenge. This mindset creates unnecessary conflict. There is nothing wrong with taking a few minutes or even a few hours before responding. Stepping away is not avoidance. Stepping away is intelligent self-management. When the reader steps away, they give themselves space to see the situation clearly. They let their emotions settle. They give themselves time to process what happened and choose a better response. This skill prevents countless arguments and emotional mistakes. Calm also strengthens leadership. People follow those who remain steady under pressure. They trust those who do not collapse under tension. When a person chooses calm, they show others that they can be trusted during difficult moments. They show others that they have the emotional maturity to guide themselves and the people around them. This makes calm an important tool not only for personal life but also for work, community, and family roles. Calm is a sign of inner stability, and inner stability is one of the most respected qualities in any environment. Choosing calm also brings peace to the home. Children, partners, siblings, and parents all feel safer when they live with someone who can manage their reactions. A calm person creates a peaceful environment. They reduce conflict. They communicate clearly. They handle stress without spreading it to others. This influence spreads through the entire household. The reader's calm becomes a foundation for the emotional health of everyone around them. This is one of the most meaningful gifts a person can offer their loved ones. Another important part of choosing calm is learning to let go of the desire to win every argument. Many public outbursts come from people fighting to win rather than trying to understand. They push, argue, and defend until the other person gives in. But winning an argument is not the same as resolving a conflict. Winning the moment does not bring long-term peace. Calm teaches the reader to focus on understanding rather than winning. Understanding leads to growth. Understanding leads to respect. Understanding leads to clarity. These outcomes are far more valuable than short-term victory. Calm also helps a person see the deeper cause behind each reaction. Instead of fighting the surface issue, calm allows them to identify the real source. Behind anger there is often fear. Behind frustration there is often unmet expectation. Behind impatience there is often overwhelm. Without calm, a person sees only the surface. With calm, they see the truth. When they see the truth, they can solve the problem at its root instead of wasting energy on the symptoms. Choosing calm when pressure rises is not about denying reality. It is about shaping reality. Pressure will always exist. Conflict will always appear. Life will always include stressful moments. The person who builds calm does not need the world to be easy. They do not need people to behave perfectly. They do not need every situation to go their way. Calm gives them the strength to move through any moment with clarity, dignity, and control. The reader may not realize how powerful this skill is right now, but life will show them again and again. The moment they choose calm while others react, they will feel a shift inside themselves. The moment they stay steady while others lose control, they will sense a new confidence building within them. The moment they speak with clarity while others shout, they will understand that self-control is the highest form of strength. Calm is not something others give them. Calm is something they choose every day. Calm is something they build through awareness, discipline, and patience. Calm becomes a part of who they are. This chapter invites the reader to build this strength with intention. The next time pressure rises in a conversation, they can slow their breath. The next time someone's tone triggers them, they can pause before speaking. The next time they feel misunderstood, they can choose to stay steady. The next time a stressful moment appears, they can remind themselves that their reaction is within their control. Each moment is a chance to practice. Each moment is a step toward a stronger mind. Calm is not a single choice. Calm is a lifestyle. Calm is a way of thinking. Calm is a way of moving through the world with confidence and control. When pressure rises, calm protects the mind. Calm protects relationships. Calm protects self-respect. Calm creates emotional freedom. This freedom allows the reader to grow without being held down by their reactions. With every calm decision, they reshape their identity into someone who stays grounded even when the world pushes them. This is not a small change. This is a transformation that carries into every part of life. Choosing calm when pressure rises is an act of self-mastery. It is evidence that the mind is no longer controlled by impulse. It is proof that the reader is able to guide themselves with purpose. It is the sign of a strong person, a disciplined person, a person who is becoming more capable each day. The reader now has the tools to start building this strength. Their calm will grow as they practice. Their life will improve as they stay steady. Their relationships will benefit as they control their reactions. Their confidence will rise as they trust themselves more. Calm will become their anchor, their advantage, and their power. And this is only the beginning of a deeper journey into mastering reactions, understanding emotions, and creating a life guided by clarity rather than chaos. With each step, the reader will discover that calm is not only possible, calm is natural once the mind learns to stop reacting and start responding with intention. This opens the door to true self-control, and from here, the path forward becomes stronger, clearer, and more empowering every day. Chapter 2. Hold power by waiting before you respond. Holding power by waiting before responding is a skill that changes the entire direction of a conversation, a conflict, or a decision, because it gives you time to understand what is happening before you take action. Most people rush to reply the moment they feel tension. They speak fast because they fear losing control, losing respect, or losing their place in the exchange. They react because silence feels uncomfortable and waiting feels unsafe. But the truth is that the real strength is not in quick replies. The real strength is in the ability to pause and allow your mind to organize itself before you speak. This waiting period is not weakness. It is control, clarity, and emotional stability working together at the same time. When you allow yourself a short moment of silence before you reply, something powerful happens in your mind. The emotional surge that wants to guide your words loses intensity. The need to defend yourself begins to ease. Your thoughts become more structured, and the situation becomes clearer. Many misunderstandings happen because people talk before thinking. Many arguments start because someone felt pushed and responded too quickly. Waiting before responding prevents these unnecessary conflicts. It gives your brain space to process what was said, instead of reacting to how it made you feel. This shift leads to better decisions, healthier communication, and stronger relationships. There is also a psychological advantage in waiting. When you pause, you show that you are not controlled by the moment. You show that you do not feel threatened by what is happening. People notice this. They sense your stability. They feel your confidence. They may even soften their own tone because your calm presence reminds them that anger or pressure will not pull you into chaos. This quiet control is one of the most effective ways to influence stressful situations without force. You guide the moment, not by reacting faster, but by responding with more thought. Waiting before responding also gives you the chance to check your emotions. Anger, frustration, fear, and insecurity push people to speak in ways they regret. When you wait, you give these emotions time to settle. You give yourself a chance to ask whether your first impulse is the best one. Most of the time, it is not. Most of the time, the first impulse is the loudest but not the wisest. When you pause, you invite a calmer version of yourself into the moment. This version of you sees more clearly, hears more accurately, and speaks more responsibly. This is how emotional maturity is built through conscious choice rather than emotional pressure. Another hidden benefit of waiting is that it helps you understand the other person more accurately. When you rush to reply, you often hear only half of what the other person said. You assume their intention. You fill in the blanks. You interpret their words based on your own emotions instead of the truth. But when you wait, you listen more deeply. You catch details you would have missed. You begin to notice whether the other person is actually upset or just overwhelmed. You observe their tone, not just their words. This deeper understanding allows you to respond in a way that meets the situation instead of escalating it. Good communication starts with accurate listening, and accurate listening begins with waiting. Waiting before responding also helps you avoid saying things you cannot take back. Words spoken in frustration leave permanent marks. You can apologize for them, but the memory remains. Many people wish they could undo a moment where they spoke too soon. By choosing to wait, you give yourself a chance to prevent these regrets. You replace impulse with intention. You protect your relationships from damage that could have been avoided. You protect your self-respect by speaking from strength rather than emotion. Building this skill does not require dramatic changes. It starts with small choices. The next time someone asks you a difficult question, you can take a breath before answering. The next time someone uses a rough tone, you can let a short silence sit between their words and your reply. The next time you feel pressure rising inside you, you can hold yourself still and allow the moment to settle. This is not avoidance. This is strategy. This is choosing a position of strength rather than entering a conflict from a place of instability. These small pauses reshape your mind. They create new patterns of behavior. They teach you to guide your reactions instead of letting your reactions guide you. The pause before responding also builds self-respect. When you hold yourself steady, you show that your emotions do not control your actions. You show that you are capable of carrying yourself with dignity even when the situation feels tense. You teach yourself that you can stay in control even when someone else is losing theirs. Each time you wait before responding, you prove to yourself that you are becoming more disciplined, more thoughtful, and more capable. This raises your confidence and strengthens your identity. The power of waiting also extends to decision-making. Many bad decisions come from acting too quickly. People rush into commitments, agreements, arguments, and choices because they feel pressured. They worry that waiting will make them appear weak or uncertain. But waiting is not hesitation. Waiting is investigation. Waiting is reflection. Waiting is respect for your own well-being. When you take time before responding to a request or an opportunity, you give yourself the chance to evaluate whether it aligns with your values, your goals, and your boundaries. You learn to protect your time and energy. You learn to choose intentionally rather than reactively. This habit saves you from unnecessary stress and keeps your life on a healthier path. There is also a deeper psychological shift that happens when you wait before responding. You begin to separate yourself from the emotion of the moment. You stop identifying with every feeling that rises inside you. You start seeing emotions as signals rather than commands. This separation gives you a clearer mind. It allows you to observe your feelings without being controlled by them. This is emotional independence. This is personal power. Many people go through life reacting to every emotion as if the emotion were a truth. When you wait before responding, you learn that emotions are temporary. They change quickly. They are not reliable guides for long-term decisions. Your ability to pause gives you a stable center that does not shift with every feeling. Waiting before responding also helps you maintain control in environments where emotions run high. In public challenges, heated conversations, or stressful situations, people often expect immediate reactions. When you break this pattern and stay quiet for a moment, you shift the energy of the entire exchange. The other person may slow down. They may rethink their tone. They may adjust their expectations. Your pause interrupts the emotional momentum of the conflict. This gives you the advantage because you are no longer being pushed by someone else's intensity. You take back the direction of the moment and bring it to a steadier place. Another benefit of waiting is the way it improves your presence. When you do not rush to respond, you appear more grounded. You give attention to the moment. You show that you value accuracy over speed. People trust those who take time to think before speaking. They respect those who choose their words carefully. They feel safer in conversations with someone who does not rush or explode under pressure. This kind of presence increases your influence wherever you go because people associate you with stability and clarity. Waiting also strengthens relationships by reducing unnecessary conflict. Many arguments begin not because of the issue itself, but because someone replied too quickly and said something that triggered the other person. When you wait, you lower the chance of triggering anyone. You protect the emotional atmosphere. You keep discussions focused on facts instead of emotions. You show that you care about the outcome, not just the moment. This builds trust. It builds connection. It allows the people around you to feel more open and honest with you because they know you will not jump to conclusions or attack them impulsively. The pause before responding also makes you a better problem solver. When you are not rushed, your mind opens to more options. You see solutions you would have missed if you responded too quickly. You understand the root of the issue instead of reacting to the surface. You become more strategic. You think long-term instead of short-term. This ability to see clearly under pressure is one of the most valuable skills a person can have, both in personal life and in professional settings. The more you practice waiting before responding, the sharper your decision-making becomes. Another important piece of this skill is learning to hold your silence, even when someone tries to provoke you. Some people use pressure, sharp words, or strong tones to push you into reacting. They want a quick emotional response. When you wait, you do not give them the reaction they expect. You show that your emotions belong to you, not to them. This shift removes their power over your state of mind. You become harder to manipulate, harder to intimidate, and harder to control. Waiting gives you a psychological shield that many people do not have. They may attempt to break your calm, but your pause protects you. Waiting before responding is also useful in moments when you feel misunderstood. When your feelings rise, you may want to explain yourself immediately. But rushed explanations are often unclear. They come from emotion, not clarity. By giving yourself a moment, you find better words. You communicate your thoughts in a cleaner and more respectful way. The message becomes easier for others to understand. Miscommunication decreases. Connection improves. This makes you a more effective communicator and prevents unnecessary pain. This skill also helps you manage confrontations without losing your inner stability. When someone challenges you publicly, your instinct may be to defend yourself right away. But the pause gives you time to assess whether the challenge deserves a detailed response or a simple acknowledgement. Not every situation requires a long explanation. Not every moment deserves your full emotional energy. Waiting helps you choose your battles wisely. It helps you conserve your strength. It helps you stay balanced even in uncomfortable situations. Holding power by waiting before you respond is also an expression of patience. Patience is not passive. Patience is active control of your impulses. When you practice patience, you decide that the situation does not dictate your behavior. You reclaim authority over your inner world. You prove to yourself that you can handle the moment without being pushed into unnecessary action. This kind of patience builds long-term resilience. It makes you stronger, calmer, and more centered. The ability to wait also helps you understand your own thought patterns. When you pause, you notice the types of thoughts that arise when you feel pressure. You see whether your mind jumps to fear, anger, defensiveness, or insecurity. This self-awareness helps you grow. It helps you correct unhealthy patterns. It helps you build healthier responses. Each time you wait, you learn something about yourself. You grow more emotionally intelligent and more balanced. Over time, waiting becomes natural. It stops feeling like something you have to force. It becomes a part of your identity. People begin to see you as someone who carries a steady presence. They trust your judgment. They value your opinion. They come to you for guidance because your ability to pause shows that you take communication seriously. This increases your influence in every area of life. In the end, waiting before responding is one of the purest forms of emotional power. It allows you to protect your peace, speak with intention, listen with accuracy, and move through the world with greater confidence. Each moment of silence strengthens your mind. Each thoughtful response builds your character. With each pause, you rise above the noise of the moment and move closer to the strongest version of yourself. Chapter 3. Stop outbursts by training your mind to pause. Stopping outbursts by training your mind to pause begins with understanding that the mind reacts faster than your awareness. You might feel a sudden rise of heat in your chest, a sharp shift in your breathing, or a surge of tension in your jaw long before you hear yourself speak or watch yourself burst into anger. These reactions are automatic because the mind is conditioned to protect itself. It interprets discomfort as danger and pushes you to act before you can think. The purpose of pausing is to break that automatic loop and give yourself a moment of control before your emotions take over. That small pause becomes the space where you stop the cycle that normally leads to shouting, arguing, or acting in ways that leave you embarrassed or drained. Training the mind to pause is not about suppressing emotion or pretending you do not feel frustrated. It is about creating a gap between the emotion and the reaction, so you can choose behavior that aligns with your values and self-respect. That gap is not natural at first. For most people, the mind jumps instantly from feeling to reaction. The pause must be trained like a muscle. You create it through repeated practice, even in small situations that seem unimportant. Every time you choose to wait instead of exploding, you strengthen the part of your mind that supports self-control. The first step to building this pause is noticing your early signals. These signals may be different for every person. Some feel a rush of energy in the chest, some feel their voice rising, some feel their hands tightening, some feel their thoughts racing ahead. When you learn to observe these early triggers, you increase your ability to stop yourself before the outburst begins. Awareness is not enough by itself, but without awareness, the pause cannot happen. Start by paying attention to what happens inside your body when you feel irritated or challenged. The information you gather will become the foundation of your control. Once you recognize the early signs, the next step is to interrupt the emotional momentum. Emotions gain speed quickly. If you do not interrupt them early, they take over. The interruption can be simple. You can slow your breath, shift your gaze, relax your shoulders, or hold your tongue for a moment. These actions may seem small, but they redirect your focus long enough for your thinking mind to return. When you interrupt the momentum, you prevent the emotion from expanding into a full outburst. This is the beginning of the pause. The pause becomes stronger when you train your mind in calm environments, not just during conflict. You can practice pausing when you feel annoyed in traffic, when your phone lags, when someone interrupts you, or when plans change unexpectedly. These small irritations are opportunities to practice. Each pause you create in low-pressure moments prepares your mind to stay steady in high-pressure ones. Your mind learns that it does not need to act immediately. It learns that waiting is safe. It learns that silence does not equal weakness. Through consistent practice, the pause becomes automatic. Another important part of training the mind to pause is learning to observe thoughts without acting on them. Many outbursts come from believing that every thought must be expressed. The truth is that the mind produces many thoughts that are unhealthy, emotional, or exaggerated. When you learn to observe your thoughts like passing clouds, you create distance between your inner world and your behavior. A pause gives you time to ask whether your thought is accurate, helpful, or worth speaking out loud. Most of the time, the thought loses intensity once it is observed quietly. The urge to react fades because the thought no longer controls you. The pause is also supported by grounding your attention in the present moment. Outbursts often happen because the mind jumps into conclusions, assumptions, or fears. It imagines danger where there is none. When you bring your attention back to your breathing or the sensations in your body, you anchor yourself in the present. This breaks the cycle of emotional escalation. Being present helps you see the situation more clearly, which makes it easier to choose a calm response instead of an explosive one. Training the mind to pause also involves strengthening your emotional tolerance. Many outbursts happen because discomfort feels unbearable. People react quickly because they want the discomfort to vanish. The pause teaches you to sit with discomfort without trying to escape it through anger. You learn that irritation, confusion, or criticism will not harm you. You discover that you can survive emotional intensity without reacting. This new resilience makes you calmer, stronger, and more stable. Another key to developing the pause is questioning the story your mind creates in tense moments. When someone says something sharp, your mind may create a story that they are attacking you personally. When someone speaks loudly, your mind may interpret it as disrespect. These stories trigger anger before you even check whether the situation truly deserves that reaction. The pause gives you time to evaluate the story instead of acting on it. You can ask yourself whether there are other possible explanations. Maybe the person is stressed. Maybe they misunderstood. Maybe they did not intend harm. By questioning the story, you reduce emotional intensity and regain control. The pause becomes more natural when you adopt a mindset that values long-term peace over short-term release. Outbursts may feel satisfying in the moment, but they damage trust, create conflict, and drain your energy. The pause reminds you of the outcome you want, not the impulse you feel. It helps you choose actions that protect your relationships, your dignity, and your emotional balance. Each time you pause, you strengthen your commitment to being the person you want to be instead of the person your emotions push you to become. The mind also learns to pause when you reduce your overall stress levels. When you carry too much tension, even small problems feel overwhelming. A tired mind reacts faster. A calm mind responds with more stability. Taking care of your physical and mental well-being through rest, movement, mindful breathing, or quiet time gives your mind more space to pause before reacting. A healthy mind is more capable of restraint than a mind filled with pressure. Training your mind to pause also requires patience with yourself. You will not master this skill overnight. There will be moments when you pause successfully and moments when you slip into old patterns. This journey is about progress, not perfection. The goal is not to eliminate emotion but to guide it. The more you practice, the more you will notice that your reactions become softer, your thoughts become clearer, and your behavior becomes more aligned with your intentions. Another powerful part of the pause is learning to focus on the outcome instead of the moment. When you pause, you can think about what kind of future you want to create through your response. You can ask whether your reaction will bring resolution or push the conflict further. This awareness gives your words more purpose. You begin to speak in a way that supports understanding rather than fueling anger. This shift transforms your conversations and makes you more effective in handling difficult moments. The pause also strengthens your ability to handle disrespect without losing your composure. When someone behaves poorly, reacting immediately often leads to more conflict. But when you pause, you show that their behavior does not control you. You protect your self-respect by not lowering yourself to match their tone. You respond with clarity instead of aggression. This gives you authority in the situation and prevents the other person from pulling you into emotional chaos. Training your mind to pause gives you freedom. You are no longer controlled by the pressure of the moment. You are not pushed by your emotions or pulled into conflict by someone else's behavior. You move through challenges with a calmer presence, a clearer mind, and a stronger sense of self. This freedom allows you to lead yourself with intention instead of reacting out of impulse. Over time, the pause becomes one of the most powerful tools in your emotional life. It protects your peace, strengthens your relationships, and guides you toward thoughtful decisions. It helps you navigate difficult people without losing yourself. It keeps you steady even when things around you feel intense. By training your mind to pause, you step into a higher level of self-control and emotional maturity. You give yourself the ability to face any situation with strength, clarity, and calm. Chapter 4. Protect peace by stepping back from heated moments. Protecting your peace by stepping back from heated moments begins with the understanding that not every situation deserves your immediate presence. When tension rises and emotions run high, staying in the middle of the moment often causes more harm than clarity. People speak without thinking, tones escalate quickly, and misunderstandings multiply. In these moments, the most powerful choice you can make is to remove yourself long enough to regain balance. Stepping back is not an escape and not a sign of weakness. It is a deliberate action that protects your state of mind, prevents unnecessary conflict, and allows you to understand the situation from a clearer point of view. When you give yourself distance, you create room for reason to return and for your emotions to settle so you can act with control instead of impulse. Heated moments distort judgment. They narrow your ability to see the bigger picture. When two people are emotionally charged, neither one is truly listening. Words are exchanged with the intention to defend rather than understand. Your peace becomes threatened because the environment keeps feeding your emotional response. If you stay in that environment, the pressure grows quickly and takes over your ability to think clearly. Stepping back interrupts this cycle. It removes the fuel feeding the argument. It gives your thoughts the space they need to reorganize. It helps you remember what matters and what does not. When you take even a short step away, you protect your mental stability from being shaped by a moment of tension. Stepping back also helps you access a calmer version of yourself that doesn't appear when you're overwhelmed. In the middle of heated situations, the body reacts with stress signals that cloud your thinking. Your breathing becomes shorter, your heart rate increases, and your muscles tighten. These reactions make it harder to communicate calmly. By stepping back, you give your body time to settle. As your breathing steadies and your muscles release tension, the emotional fog lifts. You become more capable of responding with thoughtfulness. The physical changes that happen when you step away are just as important as the mental ones, because they prepare both your mind and your body to return to the situation with strength. People sometimes stay in heated moments because they feel leaving will make them look weak or guilty. This belief causes many conflicts to escalate unnecessarily. The truth is that stepping back demonstrates maturity. It shows that you value your peace more than winning an argument. It shows that you respect yourself enough to not be dragged into chaos. It shows that you are strong enough to walk away when the environment becomes unhealthy. People who are insecure fear stepping away. People who are self-aware use it as a tool to preserve emotional balance. The moment you learn to step back without explaining yourself, you take full ownership of your peace. Another important part of stepping back is the ability to recognize when a conversation has lost its direction. Not every disagreement is productive. Sometimes the other person is too emotional to listen. Sometimes you are too overwhelmed to speak clearly. Sometimes both people are reacting from old pain or misunderstanding. Recognizing this moment is essential. When communication breaks down, continuing the conversation only deepens the conflict. Stepping back allows both sides to cool down and return with clearer minds. Many issues that seem huge in the moment become smaller after a little space. Many things you felt desperate to say lose their urgency once you distance yourself from the heat of the moment. Space brings perspective. Stepping back also prevents emotional exhaustion. Heated moments drain your energy fast. They leave you mentally tired, physically tense, and emotionally heavy. When this happens repeatedly, it impacts your overall well-being. Your mind becomes more sensitive, your tolerance decreases, and small issues begin to feel overwhelming. Stepping back protects you from this emotional damage. It keeps your mind from carrying the weight of every conflict. It reminds you that you are allowed to protect your energy even when others want you to stay in the argument. Emotional exhaustion does not build strength. Protecting your peace does. Another advantage of stepping back is that it reduces the chance of saying things you cannot take back. Words spoken in anger leave wounds that apologies cannot fully erase. When you walk away from the heat of the moment, you prevent yourself from crossing lines you will regret. You save yourself from damaging relationships unnecessarily. You protect your image in the eyes of others because they see you choosing control over chaos. You also protect your self-trust. When you step back, you prove to yourself that you can manage your emotions instead of letting them manage you. This builds confidence in your ability to stay grounded under pressure. Stepping back teaches you that not every confrontation needs your presence. Some arguments grow because both sides feel pressured to settle everything immediately, but immediate solutions are rarely the best ones. Time allows clarity to form. Time allows emotions to cool. Time allows logic to return. When you step back, you give the situation the chance to resolve more naturally. You create an environment where understanding can grow instead of tension. Sometimes stepping back is the only reason a conflict doesn't turn into a long-term problem. There is also a deeper layer to this skill. Stepping back teaches you emotional independence. It teaches you that your peace does not depend on the behavior of others. When you choose to step away, you stop waiting for someone else to calm you down or validate your feelings. You take responsibility for your own emotional state. This independence frees you from reacting to every mood or tone that comes your way. You no longer give control of your inner world to the people around you. You choose how you feel by choosing when to engage and when to step back. Stepping back also allows you to evaluate whether the situation truly needs a response. Some moments feel urgent only because emotion is high. When you get distance, you realize that not all issues are worth your time or energy. Some situations resolve on their own. Some issues shrink the moment you walk away. Some people are not arguing to solve anything, they simply want to release their frustration. Your involvement in those moments only adds weight to your day. Stepping back helps you separate real concerns from emotional noise. Another important part of this skill is learning how to return to the situation once you have stepped away. The goal is not to avoid problems, but to face them with a clear mind. When you return, you can speak with a calmer tone. You can express your perspective without urgency. You can listen without feeling attacked. The conversation becomes healthier because you are no longer reacting from emotion but responding from clarity. The people involved will notice the difference in your approach. Tension fades because the emotional fire has been extinguished. This reset is often enough to resolve the issue more peacefully. Stepping back also helps you understand your own boundaries. Heated moments reveal what affects you the most. When you step back and reflect, you learn why the situation triggered you. You learn what you need to feel safe and respected. You learn how to communicate your boundaries in a confident way. Without stepping back, you remain stuck inside the emotional storm without understanding what caused it. The space you create gives you insight into your emotional patterns, and that insight becomes a powerful tool for growth. This practice also strengthens your ability to remain stable in unpredictable environments. Life will always bring difficult people, unexpected challenges, or tense situations. You cannot control these things. But stepping back gives you control over your role in them. You may not stop the storm, but you prevent yourself from being swept into it. You carry yourself with more calm and more confidence. You respond with more intention. You protect your mental peace by choosing distance when needed. This stability becomes part of who you are, not just something you do occasionally. Over time, stepping back becomes a habit. You begin to sense early when a moment is becoming too heated. You recognize when the environment is pulling you toward a reaction that does not align with your values. You feel the shift within yourself and know it is time to step away. This self-awareness makes you stronger. You no longer fear conflict because you know how to manage it without losing your peace. You trust yourself to handle even the most intense interactions. In the end, protecting your peace by stepping back is an act of strength. It shows that you value your emotional well-being. It shows that you refuse to be controlled by tension. It shows that you are committed to handling life with intention instead of impulse. When you step back, you choose clarity over chaos. You choose growth over reaction. You choose inner calm over external pressure. And with every choice, you build a life that reflects your strength, your discipline, and your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. Chapter 5. Stay steady by letting emotions settle before speaking. Staying steady by letting emotions settle before speaking begins with the understanding that your first emotional reaction is almost never the one you truly want to express. When something upsets you, the mind rushes to protect itself, and that rush often creates words that do not match your values, your goals, or the outcome you truly want. The instant rise of emotion pushes you toward quick replies that may feel necessary in the moment, but often create more conflict than clarity. Allowing emotions to settle is not about ignoring what you feel. It is about giving your mind enough space to sort through the intensity so you can speak from a place of stability rather than urgency. When emotions are high, the mind becomes clouded. Your thoughts feel louder and faster. Your breathing changes. Your focus narrows to the thing that irritated or hurt you. In this state, you are more likely to misunderstand what was said, assume the worst, or take things more personally than the situation requires. If you speak before your emotions settle, the conversation becomes shaped by your emotional storm, not by your real understanding of the situation. Allowing emotions to settle prevents this distortion. It gives you time to regain a clear internal picture so your words reflect what you truly mean, not what the moment triggered inside you. Letting emotions settle does not require a long pause. Sometimes a single deep breath is enough to bring you back into control. Sometimes you need a few seconds of silence. Sometimes you need to step away. The length does not matter. What matters is giving your mind the chance to return to balance. This small moment of patience can turn a potential argument into a conversation. It can turn a misunderstanding into clarity. It can turn tension into cooperation. The power of waiting is not in the amount of time, but in the intention behind it. You choose to stay steady instead of letting the moment pull you into instability. When you hold your words back until your emotions settle, you show yourself that you are capable of leading your reactions rather than being led by them. This builds self-respect because you begin to trust your own ability to navigate difficult situations. You are no longer afraid of conflict because you know you can stay balanced long enough to make thoughtful decisions. This inner trust strengthens your confidence in every area of life. It changes the way you interact with others because you no longer worry about losing control or saying something you will regret. You carry yourself with a sense of emotional maturity that others can feel. Letting emotions settle also helps you hear the true intention behind the other person's words. When emotion is high, everything sounds more intense. A simple question can feel like criticism. A neutral comment can feel like disrespect. But once your emotions calm, you often realize that the situation was not as threatening as it felt. You may notice that the other person was stressed or misunderstood something rather than trying to upset you. This shift in perspective happens only when you give your emotions time to settle. Without this pause, you may respond to a version of the moment that exists only in your mind, not in reality. Staying steady also strengthens your communication skills. When you speak after your emotions settle, your voice becomes clearer, your tone softer, and your message more structured. You speak with intention instead of impulse. People respond better to calm communication because it makes them feel heard, understood, and respected. This reduces defensiveness and opens the door to productive dialogue. Your steady presence influences others to slow down and respond more thoughtfully. Even people who are typically reactive tend to soften their behavior when they feel the calm energy of someone who is grounded. One of the most valuable benefits of letting emotions settle before speaking is the reduction of unnecessary conflict. Many arguments begin not because of the issue itself, but because someone reacted too quickly. A single emotionally charged sentence can turn a small problem into a larger one. When you wait, you avoid adding fuel to the moment. You prevent the situation from becoming more complicated than it needs to be. You protect your relationships from avoidable damage. You save yourself from carrying stress that could have been avoided. This simple choice becomes a powerful tool for emotional harmony. Letting emotions settle also helps you understand your own patterns more clearly. You begin to notice what kinds of situations trigger intensity in you. You start recognizing the thoughts that drive your reactions. You see the kinds of tones or behaviors that make you feel defensive. This awareness helps you grow because you learn how your emotional system works. When you know your patterns, you can manage them more effectively. You can prepare yourself for situations that challenge your patience. You can create healthier responses. This process builds emotional intelligence, which improves every part of your life. Another important reason to let emotions settle is to avoid reacting from past experiences. Sometimes a situation triggers old memories or unresolved pain. If you speak while you are emotionally charged, you may bring old hurt into a present moment that does not deserve it. This creates confusion and pushes people away because your reaction does not match the situation. When you allow emotions to settle, you separate the past from the present. You respond to what is happening now instead of reacting to something that happened long ago. This protects your relationships and keeps your communication honest and healthy. Staying steady also helps you protect your long-term peace. When you learn to wait before speaking, you prevent emotional chaos from becoming a normal part of your life. You create an atmosphere where calm communication is the standard. This supports your mental health and reduces the emotional exhaustion that comes from constant conflict. Peace becomes something you build intentionally, not something you hope others will create for you. This shift is empowering because it puts you in control of your emotional world. Letting emotions settle before speaking also prevents you from acting out of pride. Pride pushes people to respond immediately because they feel the need to prove something. But pride-driven reactions often lead to regret because they come from insecurity rather than confidence. Waiting helps you choose dignity over defensiveness. It helps you speak in a way that reflects your strength, not your fear. People who master this skill become respected because they show consistency, stability, and emotional maturity. Another powerful effect of staying steady is that it helps you handle criticism without collapsing. Criticism often triggers strong emotions because it challenges your sense of self. If you respond immediately, your words are likely to be defensive or dismissive. But if you wait, you can listen with a clearer mind. You can evaluate whether the criticism is helpful, neutral, or unfair. You can choose a response that reflects self-respect rather than insecurity. This makes you stronger because you are no longer threatened by feedback. You can accept what is useful and release what is not without emotional chaos. Letting emotions settle also strengthens your ability to stay calm in unpredictable situations. Life will always bring challenges that catch you off guard. When you master the habit of waiting before speaking, you build a mental buffer that protects you from being overwhelmed. You learn to stay centered even when the environment is chaotic. This skill makes you reliable, stable, and grounded. People feel safer around you because they know you will not explode or panic under pressure. This practice also helps you build stronger boundaries. When you wait before speaking, you give yourself time to decide what you are willing to accept and what you are not. You learn to express your boundaries in a steady and clear way rather than through emotional reactions. Boundaries communicated with calmness are more effective because they are easier for others to hear and respect. This makes your relationships healthier and more balanced. Over time, staying steady and letting emotions settle becomes second nature. You no longer need to force yourself to pause. Your mind naturally chooses calm first. Your reactions become more aligned with your true intentions. You communicate with confidence instead of tension. You handle conflict with clarity instead of panic. You speak from a place of strength rather than emotion. This change reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can handle any situation with control. In the end, staying steady by letting emotions settle before speaking gives you power over your inner world. It protects your peace, improves your relationships, and strengthens your character. It allows you to move through life with a calm presence that influences others and stabilizes even the most difficult moments. When your emotions calm, your wisdom rises. When your mind is steady, your words carry weight. And when you choose patience over impulse, you show yourself that you are capable of the kind of self-control that builds a stronger, calmer, and more resilient life. Chapter 6. Grow strength by refusing to match loud behavior. Growing strength by refusing to match loud behavior begins with the understanding that the volume of someone else's voice does not determine the direction of your own. When a person raises their voice, their goal is often to dominate the moment, overwhelm you emotionally, or force you into reacting on their level. Loud behavior is a sign of inner turbulence, not confidence. When you choose not to match that energy, you display a type of strength that is far deeper and more stable. Your refusal to rise with their volume shows that your emotions are not controlled by the noise around you. This is the first sign that you are operating from a higher level of awareness, not from the same place that drives the other person's outburst. When someone becomes loud, the natural instinct is to mirror that intensity. Your heartbeat speeds up, your breathing becomes faster, and your body prepares to defend itself. This physical reaction makes it feel as though raising your voice is the only way to regain control. But matching loud behavior places you inside the same emotional storm that the other person is trapped in. Inside that storm, clarity disappears. You say things you do not mean. You lose track of the actual issue. You become focused on the noise instead of the solution. Strength comes from resisting that instinct and grounding yourself before the situation pulls you in deeper. By staying calm, you protect your mind from entering a chaotic state that never leads to progress. Refusing to match loud behavior also shows that your identity is not tied to proving yourself in heated moments. Loud voices often come from people who feel threatened. They believe that raising their volume strengthens their position, but you grow stronger when you do the opposite, when you remain composed, even when the environment becomes overwhelming. This teaches your mind that you can face tension without being consumed by it. It teaches you that your worth does not depend on convincing others through intensity. It teaches you that self-control gives you more influence than noise ever will. Calm behavior in the face of loudness disrupts the pattern that the other person expects. When someone raises their voice, they anticipate resistance or emotional retaliation. They expect you to push back with the same force. When you do not, their emotional momentum loses strength. They may become confused, embarrassed, or uncertain about their own approach. Your calmness forces them to reconsider their behavior without you having to push them. Instead of escalating the moment, your presence brings an unexpected shift that lowers the emotional temperature. This alone is a form of strength because it gives you the advantage of direction while the other person remains stuck in reaction. Refusing to match loud behavior also protects your dignity. When you raise your voice, you lose your sense of stability. You begin saying things that do not align with who you want to be. Anger takes over your tone and your words become shaped by frustration instead of clarity. But when you remain steady, you show yourself that you are in control of your actions no matter how loud the world becomes around you. This inner control builds self-respect. You begin to trust yourself more deeply because you know you can handle intensity without losing your sense of self. Maintaining your dignity in moments of pressure is one of the strongest forms of self-mastery. Another important part of refusing to rise with loud behavior is the protection it gives to your long-term relationships. Arguments escalate when both sides keep raising their voices. One person becomes louder, the other responds louder, and soon the emotional damage becomes greater than the original disagreement. When you choose not to engage at that level, you break the cycle before it grows into something both people will regret. Your calmness helps the other person return to a more respectful tone. The moment becomes easier to navigate. Communication becomes possible again. By avoiding the pull of loud behavior, you preserve trust, reduce emotional harm, and maintain a healthy connection even during conflict. Staying calm also helps you see the true cause behind someone's loud behavior. A raised voice often hides insecurity, fear, confusion, or frustration. People rarely raise their voices because they feel strong. They raise them because they feel unheard or overwhelmed. When you do not mirror their volume, you give yourself the chance to understand what they are actually trying to express. You can focus on the message behind the noise instead of the noise itself. This ability to see beyond the surface makes you a more understanding and emotionally intelligent person. It prevents misinterpretation and helps you respond with intention instead of irritation. Refusing to match loud behavior gives you the ability to guide the moment instead of being pushed by it. When you remain calm, you create a center of stability in the conversation. The other person either adjusts their behavior or reveals their emotional state more clearly. Both outcomes give you more control over the direction of the interaction. You become capable of choosing how to respond rather than being forced into impulsive reactions. This steadiness becomes a strength that you can carry into every aspect of your life. People begin to rely on your presence because they know you can handle intensity without contributing to it. Remaining calm when others are loud also reduces your own stress levels. Every time you raise your voice, your body reacts with tension and adrenaline. Over time, this wears down your emotional health. Your mind becomes more sensitive, and your mood becomes easier to disrupt. But when you maintain your composure, you protect your body from unnecessary spikes in stress. You feel more balanced, more centered, and more capable of managing your emotions. This stability benefits your mental clarity, your physical health, and your daily quality of life. Strong people are not those who shout the loudest, they are those who can stay grounded in the middle of emotional noise. Another advantage of refusing to match loud behavior is the way it shapes your personal identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who cannot be pushed around emotionally. You build a quiet confidence that does not need to prove itself. You carry yourself with a sense of inner assurance that others notice. This confidence does not come from aggression but from discipline. It comes from knowing that you can stay in control even when someone else loses theirs. This kind of identity gives you power in social situations, professional environments, and personal relationships, because you operate from a stable foundation rather than an emotional one. Refusing to match loud behavior also allows you to make decisions with greater clarity. When voices rise, logic disappears. You react emotionally instead of thoughtfully. But when you maintain your calm, your thinking remains organized. You can evaluate the situation more accurately. You can identify the real issue without being distracted by the noise. You can decide whether the conversation is worth continuing or whether it needs boundaries. This clarity leads to better choices and reduces the chance of mistakes made under emotional pressure. This skill also teaches you discipline. Choosing calm when someone is loud requires a strong mind. It requires you to resist the pull of ego, the urge to defend yourself, and the instinct to fight back. Every time you resist these impulses, you strengthen your self-control. Discipline is built through these small moments where you choose restraint over reaction. Over time, this discipline becomes a core part of your character. It influences the way you handle challenges, the way you speak, and the way you carry yourself. In stressful situations, not matching loud behavior also keeps your message clearer. When voices rise, the actual meaning behind the words becomes lost. People stop listening and focus instead on defending themselves. But when you speak calmly, your words carry more weight. They become easier to hear and harder to ignore. You communicate with intention rather than emotion. You guide the conversation rather than fuel it. This makes your voice more effective and your influence stronger. Another important part of growing strength through calm behavior is the example you set for others. People watch how you behave in tense situations. When you stay grounded, you show them a better way to handle conflict. You teach them that control is possible even when emotions rise. You become a model of stability in environments that often lack it. Your presence encourages others to mirror your calm instead of your reaction. You create a culture of respect simply through your behavior. In the end, refusing to match loud behavior is not about being passive. It is about choosing a form of strength that does not rely on noise. It is about protecting your emotional world, maintaining your integrity, and guiding your reactions with wisdom rather than force. When you stay calm, you show that your power comes from within, not from the volume of your voice. You communicate that you do not need to overpower anyone to stand strong. You reveal a level of maturity that many strive for but few achieve, and with every moment you choose calm over loudness, you grow into a stronger, more grounded, and more resilient version of yourself. Chapter 7. Stay focused by noticing early signs of overwhelm. Staying focused by noticing early signs of overwhelm begins with the awareness that overwhelm does not appear suddenly. It builds quietly in the background long before you feel the full weight of it. Most people only recognize overwhelm when it has already taken over their mind, their mood, and their ability to think clearly. By that point, staying focused becomes almost impossible. The key is learning to identify the earliest signals so you can manage the pressure before it grows into something unmanageable. Early awareness gives you control. It allows you to intervene before your mind shifts into panic, irritation, or emotional exhaustion. The mind sends signals long before overwhelm becomes visible. You may find yourself losing track of small details, forgetting simple tasks, or feeling unusually sensitive to small frustrations. You might notice your breathing becoming uneven, your patience shortening, or your thoughts jumping between too many things at once. These are not failures, these are warnings. They are the mind's way of telling you that your internal load is becoming too heavy. People often ignore these signs because life moves quickly and responsibilities feel urgent. But ignoring these signals does not make them disappear. It only invites overwhelm to grow stronger. Learning to notice early signs requires slowing down enough to observe your mental state. Many people push themselves without checking how they feel. They think being strong means pushing through everything with force, but real strength comes from understanding your limits and managing them wisely. When you tune into your inner signals, you give yourself the ability to respond before the pressure becomes too intense. This kind of awareness keeps you stable and helps you stay focused even when life demands a lot from you. Noticing early signs of overwhelm also helps you understand how your mind responds to different types of stress. Some pressure comes from deadlines, some from emotional tension, some from people's expectations, and some from internal worry. When you learn which types of pressure affect you the most, you gain the ability to adjust before they build up. This understanding gives you the power to organize your tasks, set boundaries, and create space for rest before your mind reaches its breaking point. The goal is not to avoid responsibility, but to manage it in a way that preserves your clarity and focus. One of the earliest signs of overwhelm is a shift in your ability to concentrate. You may find your thoughts becoming scattered or your attention drifting, even when the task is simple. When this happens, it is easy to become frustrated with yourself. But frustration only adds more pressure. Instead, take it as a signal. Your mind is telling you that it needs a moment to reset. A short pause, a slow breath, or a break from stimulation can bring back your focus. When you treat these signals with respect, you prevent overwhelm from taking control. Another early sign is an emotional change. You might feel unusually irritable, uneasy, or impatient. You may notice that things which normally feel manageable now feel heavier. This emotional shift is not weakness. It is your internal system asking for balance. When you acknowledge this feeling instead of pushing it away, you create room to calm yourself before the feeling grows stronger. This helps you stay stable in situations that might otherwise drain you. Emotional awareness becomes a shield that protects your peace. Physical tension is another early sign that many people overlook. Tightness in the shoulders, a heavy chest, a clenched jaw, or restlessness in the hands are all signals. The body speaks when the mind is overloaded. When you pay attention to these sensations, you gain the ability to respond early. A short stretch, slowing your breathing, or changing your environment can bring immediate relief. These small actions stop the buildup of pressure and help you stay focused throughout the day. Another subtle sign of overwhelm is loss of enjoyment in simple things. When your mind is overloaded, even small tasks feel demanding. You may start rushing through everything, not because the tasks are difficult, but because your mental capacity is shrinking. When you recognize this lack of enjoyment, it is a sign that you need to slow down. Rushing through your day without awareness drains your energy further. By noticing this sign early, you can create space to reset your pace and regain your sense of control. Early signs also show up in the way you communicate. You might start responding more quickly, speaking without thinking, or withdrawing from conversation. These changes happen because your mind is trying to manage too much at once. When you become aware of this shift, you can adjust your tone, slow your speech, or give yourself permission to step back from communication temporarily. This prevents misunderstandings and protects your relationships during stressful times. Another sign is when your mind starts creating unnecessary urgency. You may feel like everything must be done immediately, even when it does not. This false sense of urgency pushes you toward overwhelm. When you notice this thought pattern, pause and ask whether the task truly requires instant action. Most of the time, it does not. Recognizing this helps you prioritize effectively and reduces the mental pressure that leads to overwhelm. Staying focused requires addressing overwhelm at its earliest point. When you catch the signs early, you can adjust your approach with simple actions. You might break tasks into smaller steps, reduce distractions, take a brief walk, or shift your attention to one thing at a time. These adjustments are not about avoiding responsibility. They are about protecting your clarity. A focused mind works better, feels better, and makes healthier decisions. Noticing early signs also allows you to communicate your needs more clearly. When you wait until you are overwhelmed, your tone may become sharp or your thoughts scattered. But when you notice the signs early, you can express your needs calmly. You can ask for a moment, set a boundary, or delegate responsibility without creating tension. This strengthens your relationships and prevents conflict before it begins. Another powerful benefit of noticing early signs is that it builds emotional resilience. When you respond early, you teach your mind that overwhelm is not something to fear. You show yourself that you can manage pressure before it controls you. This strengthens your confidence in handling challenges. You begin to trust your ability to navigate stress with clarity and composure. Over time, this confidence becomes a part of your identity. You no longer worry about losing control because you know you can see the signs and adjust before it happens. Recognizing early signals also gives you the power to create healthier habits. You start noticing which environments drain you and which support your focus. You learn what time of day you concentrate best. You understand which tasks require more mental energy and which ones help you reset. This awareness allows you to organize your life in a way that supports your well-being. You stop forcing yourself into patterns that cause overwhelm and start shaping habits that help you stay centered. Staying focused by noticing early signs of overwhelm also helps you build a more peaceful inner world. Your mind stops feeling like a place of constant pressure. You no longer carry the weight of ignoring your internal signals. Instead, you move through life with awareness. You understand the difference between healthy challenge and harmful overload. This understanding gives you freedom. You begin to see that overwhelm is not a sudden event but a process you can interrupt. With time, these early signals become your guide. You recognize them instantly, You know how to respond. You make adjustments before the emotional noise grows louder. You stay steady because you catch the imbalance early. This skill becomes one of your greatest strengths. It allows you to preserve your peace, protect your focus, and move through your days with more clarity and stability. In the end, staying focused by noticing early signs of overwhelm is not only about reducing stress, it is about building a relationship with yourself that is attentive, respectful, and supportive. It is about developing the discipline to listen to your inner world before it becomes too heavy. It is about choosing clarity over chaos and intention over reaction. When you learn to recognize these early signs, you create a life where overwhelm no longer controls you. You take charge of your mental space, and with that control, you build a stronger, calmer, and more grounded version of yourself. Chapter 8. Build discipline by practicing silence in tense situations. Building discipline by practicing silence in tense situations begins with understanding that silence is not the absence of strength, but the expression of it. Many people believe that tense moments require quick responses, loud arguments, or immediate explanations. They feel pressure to defend themselves or correct others the moment tension rises. But this instinct often leads to confusion, emotional harm, or unnecessary conflict. Silence gives you something far more powerful than speed. It gives you control. It gives you a moment to understand what is actually happening instead of reacting based on emotion. It gives you the discipline to choose your response instead of being pulled into the intensity of the moment. Practicing silence does not mean shutting down or avoiding communication. It means allowing yourself a pocket of stillness where your thoughts can settle. When tension rises, emotions can blur your judgment. You might feel the urge to speak immediately because the moment feels uncomfortable. But discomfort is not danger. It is simply your body reacting to sudden changes in tone, behavior, or environment. Instead of jumping to defend yourself or justify your actions, silence allows you to examine what you feel. It gives you the chance to understand whether your reaction is coming from truth or from emotional pressure. Silence is a discipline because it requires you to resist your instincts. In tense situations, your mind pushes you to act quickly. It tells you that you must fix the moment right away, protect your position, or prove your point. When you choose silence, you are training yourself to slow down. You are telling your mind that it does not need to rush. You are teaching yourself that clarity is more important than speed. This discipline creates emotional stability, and emotional stability creates strength. One of the most powerful aspects of silence is the way it breaks the cycle of escalation. Tense moments often grow because both sides keep feeding the tension with hasty words. When one person pauses, the energy of the moment shifts. The silence interrupts the emotional rhythm. It removes the fuel that keeps the conflict alive. The other person may begin to slow down as well. They might notice their own intensity more clearly because your silence reflects it back to them. Without you raising your voice or adding more words, the atmosphere begins to calm. This demonstrates that silence can be more effective than argument. Practicing silence also helps you observe what others are truly expressing. When you are quiet, you listen with more depth. You notice details that you would have missed if you were focused on responding. You hear the worry behind someone's irritation, the insecurity behind someone's harsh tone, or the confusion behind someone's frustration. Tense moments often disguise deeper emotions. Speaking too quickly keeps you from seeing them. Silence reveals them, because silence opens space for truth to surface. The more you understand the real source of tension, the better you can respond with wisdom instead of defensiveness. Silence also gives you time to understand your own thoughts before you share them. When situations feel tense, your mind can create exaggerated interpretations. A simple comment can feel like a personal attack. A misunderstanding can feel like rejection. A disagreement can feel like disrespect. If you speak while these emotions are raw, your words will reflect the intensity of your feelings, not the reality of the situation. When you stay silent, even for a short moment, your mind begins to settle. Thoughts that felt urgent moments earlier lose their intensity. Emotions that felt overwhelming begin to soften. Once your internal world becomes clearer, your response becomes more aligned with your values and not driven by temporary reaction. Another strength of silence is that it teaches you patience. Patience is not waiting passively. Patience is controlling your emotional impulses. In tense situations, patience prevents you from adding negativity to the moment. It allows you to move with intention, not emotion. Practicing silence builds that patience over time. The more you experience the benefits of waiting, the easier it becomes to choose it again. Eventually, silence becomes a natural part of your discipline rather than something you must force. Silence also helps you protect your self-respect. When you speak in the heat of tension, you may say things that misrepresent who you are. You may speak from fear, anger, or insecurity. These reactions can damage your image, weaken your confidence, or create regrets that follow you long after the moment has passed. Silence creates a barrier between your emotions and your behavior. It protects your integrity by preventing you from acting in ways that do not reflect your true character. Silence strengthens your relationship with yourself because you begin trusting your ability to stay grounded instead of losing control. Another advantage of silence is that it gives you the power to choose your battles. Not every tense moment requires your participation. Not every disagreement needs your voice. Silence helps you step back mentally and evaluate whether the situation is worth engaging with. Some arguments are fueled by misunderstanding. Some are driven by frustration the other person carries from something unrelated. Some are simply not important enough to disturb your peace. Silence gives you the awareness to identify these moments. When you avoid engaging in unnecessary tension, you conserve your emotional energy and protect your mental well-being. Practicing silence also helps you identify patterns in your reactions. When you pause in tense situations, you begin to recognize what kinds of things trigger you. You might notice specific tones that bother you, certain types of comments that make you defensive, or particular situations that raise your stress. This awareness helps you grow because you can create new responses to old triggers. Over time, situations that once overwhelmed you lose their power because you have trained yourself to respond with presence rather than impulse. Another benefit of silence is that it gives others space to process their own emotions. Sometimes the tension is not coming from you but from the other person's internal struggle. When you remain quiet, you give them the room to calm themselves. You do not add pressure or judgment. You do not feed their frustration with more resistance. Many tense moments resolve naturally when one person simply gives the other space to breathe. Silence becomes a gift you offer to the situation. It becomes a path toward peace. The discipline of silence also strengthens your communication skills. When you speak after being silent, your words become clearer and more intentional. You are not just reacting to the tension, you are responding with purpose. People listen differently when you speak this way. They sense your clarity, they feel your steadiness. Your words carry more weight because they are measured, not rushed. Silence becomes the foundation that gives your voice strength. Practicing silence can also make you more resilient. When you refuse to be pulled into tense moments, you build emotional endurance. Situations that once overwhelmed you become manageable. You learn that tension does not dictate your behavior. You are not controlled by the emotions around you. You guide yourself even when the environment feels unstable. This kind of resilience builds confidence that lasts beyond the moment. It becomes a part of your identity. Silence also helps you choose solutions instead of reactions. When tension rises, reacting quickly often leads to more issues, but silence opens space for problem solving. You begin to see options you couldn't see before. You understand the situation more deeply. You think more clearly about what outcome you actually want. This clarity leads to choices that create resolution rather than conflict. Silence helps you move towards solutions instead of getting trapped inside emotional loops. Over time, the discipline of silence becomes one of your strongest tools. You no longer feel the need to match the intensity of the situation. You no longer feel pressured to prove anything. You no longer allow tension to control your behavior. Instead, you respond with awareness, intention, and mastery. The people around you notice the difference. Your presence becomes calming, your words become meaningful, your relationships become healthier, because tensions no longer escalate into unnecessary conflict. In the end, practicing silence in tense situations is not about withholding your voice. It is about honoring your peace. It is about protecting your clarity. It is about giving yourself enough space to remain grounded in who you are. Silence builds discipline by strengthening your control over your emotions, your reactions, and your decisions. It transforms tense moments from threats into opportunities for growth. It helps you carry yourself with dignity even when the world around you feels chaotic. Through silence, you grow stronger not by overpowering others, but by mastering yourself. Chapter 9. Reduce conflict by controlling tone during hard conversations. Reducing conflict by controlling tone during hard conversations begins with recognizing that tone shapes the entire emotional atmosphere long before the actual words have any effect. People often focus on what they want to say, believing the message is the most important part. But in reality, the tone you use determines how your message is received. A calm tone creates space for understanding. A sharp tone invites defensiveness. A cold tone creates distance. A warm tone encourages cooperation. When a conversation becomes difficult, your tone becomes the anchor that holds the moment steady. Without tone control, even the right words can lead to conflict, but with a steady tone, even uncomfortable truths can be spoken without creating unnecessary tension. Your tone reflects your internal state. If you feel rushed, irritated, or threatened, it will show in the way your voice sounds. That sound sends signals to the other person's emotional system before they even process your words. Their brain reacts to your tone immediately, activating either openness or resistance. This is why hard conversations often spiral out of control even when the topic is simple. The emotional trigger happens in the tone, not the content. When you learn to control your tone, you take away the emotional fuel that ignites conflict. You create breathing room inside the conversation, giving both sides a chance to speak without being overwhelmed. Controlling your tone begins with slowing your speech. When tension rises, people talk faster. Their sentences become sharper, their breathing shortens, and their voice takes on an edge that can easily be misinterpreted. Slowing your speech gives you time to think. It gives your mind a chance to settle before forming the next sentence. It also signals to the other person that you are not rushing to fight or defend yourself. This helps reduce their emotional response as well. A measured tone invites stability. It keeps the moment from escalating into something larger than it needs to be. Another important part of tone control is lowering your volume. You do not need to whisper or sound passive, but reducing your volume slightly helps calm the emotional charge in the room. People instinctively mirror the volume they hear. If you raise your voice, they raise theirs. If you soften your tone, they begin to soften without realizing it. Lowering your volume shows that you are not trying to overpower the moment. It communicates intention and calm. This alone can shift a hard conversation from confrontational to cooperative. Your pace also influences the tone. Speaking too quickly can sound aggressive, even if your words are neutral. Speaking too slowly can sound uninterested or dismissive. The goal is a steady pace that reflects thoughtfulness. A balanced pace shows that you are engaged but not overwhelmed. It allows the listener to follow your message without feeling pressured. This balance helps you maintain control, even when the topic is sensitive. Another part of controlling tone is choosing words that match the calm energy you want to create. Even if you must address something difficult, your tone can guide the emotional direction. Neutral wording followed by a steady voice reduces the emotional weight of the conversation. It helps the listener focus on the meaning instead of the emotional noise. Your tone becomes a filter that protects the conversation from unnecessary emotion. This encourages both sides to stay respectful and focused. Tone control also requires awareness of your body. When your posture tightens, your tone becomes sharper. When your shoulders relax, your tone softens naturally. When your face expresses frustration, your tone carries it. Hard conversations are not just verbal, they are physical. Your tone is shaped by the tension in your body. If you notice your chest tightening or your jaw clenching, your tone will shift. Releasing that tension helps restore your natural voice. This physical awareness supports emotional awareness and keeps you steady during difficult exchanges. Another key to tone control is allowing pauses. People feel pressure to fill silence, especially in tense conversations, but pauses create space for thought. They prevent you from reacting emotionally and give the other person time to process. A pause after a sentence helps reduce misunderstanding. A pause before responding helps prevent escalation. These small breaks influence tone because they slow down the emotional speed of the moment. They help everyone breathe and reset. When you control your tone, you also create a safer environment for the other person to express themselves. Hard conversations often bring vulnerability, and vulnerability needs safety. If your tone is harsh or tense, the other person may shut down or become defensive. But if your tone is steady and patient, they feel more comfortable being honest. This creates openness instead of conflict. The conversation becomes less about being right and more about being understood. Controlling your tone also helps you stay connected to your values during hard moments. Many people regret the way they speak when emotions rise. They regret the tone more than the words. When you guide your tone intentionally, you protect your integrity. You maintain respect for yourself and for the other person. This prevents emotional damage and keeps the relationship stronger, even if the topic is difficult. Tone control becomes a form of self-mastery. Another powerful part of controlling tone is that it prevents misunderstanding. Many conflicts start because someone misreads the emotional intention behind a sentence. Your tone helps clarify your purpose. It helps the other person understand that your goal is stability, not attack. Even when you need to be firm, your tone can express firmness without aggression. It can express honesty without cruelty. This reduces the emotional distortion that often leads to arguments. Tone control is also a form of emotional separation. It helps you hold your ground without absorbing the other person's emotional energy. You may face frustration, impatience, or fear in the conversation, but your tone keeps you anchored. It prevents you from reacting to their emotions. It allows you to stay centered even when they are not. This is how you reduce conflict. You stop letting emotions guide your responses. Another benefit of tone control is its ability to de-escalate unpredictable situations. Hard conversations do not always follow a clear path. People can become sensitive, confused, or triggered by small things. If your tone remains steady, you help guide the moment back to balance. Your consistency becomes a stabilizing force. Instead of being pulled into emotional swings, you help neutralize them. Your tone becomes a tool for grounding the entire situation. Tone control also allows you to be heard more clearly. When your tone is calm, people listen with less resistance. They are not distracted by emotional intensity. They do not feel attacked. They do not feel pressured to defend themselves. They hear your message with more accuracy. This increases the chance that your point will actually land. Hard conversations become productive rather than painful. Another reason tone matters is because it shapes the direction of the conversation. If your tone remains stable, the conversation stays on the topic. If your tone becomes aggressive, the conversation shifts to defending emotions instead of solving the issue. When you maintain a controlled tone, you keep the focus where it needs to be. You prevent detours into unrelated arguments or personal attacks. You guide the conversation toward resolution. Controlling your tone also teaches you to regulate your own emotions. Tone control requires emotional awareness. It requires patience. It requires restraint. These skills build discipline. Over time, you begin to feel calmer in tense situations because you trust your ability to navigate them. You no longer fear conflict because you know you can handle it without losing control. This confidence reduces your overall stress levels and improves your emotional resilience. Tone control also sets a standard for how you expect to be treated. When you speak calmly, you communicate that you value respectful communication. When you maintain your tone, you show that emotional chaos will not shape your behavior. This often encourages others to match your steadiness. People adapt to the emotional environment you create. By controlling your tone, you create an environment that supports cooperation, not conflict. In the end, reducing conflict by controlling tone during hard conversations is one of the most effective emotional skills you can develop. It stabilizes your interactions, strengthens your relationships, and protects your mental peace. It helps you express yourself with clarity rather than emotion. It allows you to navigate difficult moments without losing your sense of self. When you control your tone, you take control of the moment. You turn tension into understanding. You turn conflict into connection. You grow stronger not by overpowering others, but by guiding your voice with discipline, intention, and wisdom. Chapter 10. Gain respect by staying composed in public challenges. Gaining respect by staying composed in public challenges begins with understanding that people form lasting impressions of you based on how you behave when pressure is visible. Anyone can appear calm in private moments, but true composure is tested when eyes are on you, when the environment becomes unpredictable, and when you are confronted or challenged in front of others. These are the moments where your character speaks louder than your words. People watch how you handle yourself when situations become uncomfortable. They pay attention to whether you remain grounded or whether you let tension take control of your behavior. Composure in public situations communicates a strength that does not need to be announced. It shows confidence, self-respect, and emotional maturity in ways that words alone cannot. Public challenges create an added layer of pressure because you know others are observing. That awareness often triggers defensive instincts. You may feel the urge to protect your image, respond quickly, or assert yourself loudly to avoid looking weak. But reacting impulsively in public usually does the opposite. It causes you to appear unstable or easily provoked, and it invites unnecessary judgment. Composure, on the other hand, communicates that you are not controlled by the moment, the environment, or the behavior of others. When you remain calm, even under pressure, people sense your confidence. They recognize that you do not need to defend yourself through emotional display. This steadiness earns their respect because it shows you are anchored in your values, not in temporary emotion. Staying composed in public challenges also helps you think more clearly. When you feel watched, your mind can race. You may fear embarrassment, criticism, or failure. These fears shorten your patience and push you toward quick reactions. But quick reactions are rarely wise reactions. Composure slows your internal pace. It gives you a chance to understand what is actually happening instead of responding to the discomfort of being seen. This clarity helps you choose actions that reflect your strength rather than your stress. The more clearly you think, the more confidently you act, and the more respect you earn from those around you. Composure also communicates control without aggression. People often assume that being forceful in public will earn respect, but aggression usually creates fear rather than admiration. Fear does not last, and it does not form strong relationships. What people truly admire is someone who can stand firm without raising their voice, and someone who can remain respectful even when disrespected. This does not mean allowing others to treat you poorly. It means showing that you can address issues without losing your grounding. Composure shows that you do not allow the environment to dictate your behavior. It shows that you lead yourself, even when the moment feels chaotic. Another powerful part of staying composed in public challenges is that it protects your reputation. One emotional outburst can overshadow years of positive behavior. People remember the moments that feel intense, especially if you lose control in front of them. Staying composed prevents these moments from defining you. It ensures that the version of you others see is aligned with the person you want to be. It keeps your public identity consistent, stable, and trustworthy. A composed person is viewed as reliable, thoughtful, and capable of handling responsibility. These qualities attract respect in both personal and professional environments. Composure also reduces the influence that others have over you. When someone challenges you in public, they may be trying to provoke a reaction. They may hope to unsettle you or prove their dominance. If you react emotionally, you give them power over your behavior. But if you stay composed, you take that power back. You show that their attempts cannot destabilize you. This shifts the dynamic completely. People who try to provoke you lose confidence when they see that their efforts have no effect. Meanwhile, observers notice your calm strength and form a deeper sense of trust in you. Staying composed also allows you to observe the situation more accurately. In public challenges, emotions can distort your perception. You may think the challenge is bigger than it is. You may assume people are judging you when they are not. You may believe you must defend yourself immediately, even when patience would be a better choice. Composure gives you a moment to step back internally. It helps you separate the truth from your emotional interpretation. This clarity allows you to respond based on facts rather than fear. People respect those who can see beyond the surface and act with intention. Another important part of gaining respect through composure is the way you handle unexpected criticism. Public criticism can feel harsh because it exposes your vulnerability. Many people react defensively or aggressively, but this only reinforces the critic's power. When you stay composed, you show that criticism does not define you. You show that your confidence comes from within, not from outside approval. This internal confidence draws people in because they see that you are not easily shaken. It inspires trust and admiration because emotional steadiness is rare in public moments. Composure also helps you communicate more effectively. When you speak from agitation, your message becomes unclear. Your tone shifts, your words become rushed, and your intention becomes distorted. But when you are composed, your communication becomes stronger. You express yourself in a way that others can understand. Your words carry weight because they are delivered with calm authority. Even if you disagree with someone, your composed tone keeps the conversation respectful. This ability to communicate clearly during public challenges is a mark of maturity, and it naturally earns respect. Staying composed also prevents small situations from becoming larger than they need to be. Public challenges often start with minor misunderstandings. Without composure, these misunderstandings escalate quickly because emotions take over. But when you remain calm, you prevent unnecessary escalation. You guide the moment toward clarity instead of chaos. This ability to diffuse tension showcases your leadership because you are choosing solutions rather than reacting from frustration. People admire those who can prevent conflict rather than create it. Another part of composure that inspires respect is consistency. When you remain steady in different types of challenges, people notice that your behavior is not dependent on circumstances. You remain grounded whether someone speaks rudely, whether plans fall apart, or whether you face criticism. This consistency builds trust because people know what to expect from you. They feel safe in your presence because your emotional stability does not fluctuate with the environment. This kind of steady presence is rare and respected in every area of life. Staying composed also allows you to protect your personal boundaries without aggression. Many believe that strong boundaries require loud enforcement, but composure sets boundaries more effectively. When you calmly address behavior that crosses your limits, you communicate strength without hostility. You show that you value yourself enough to stand firm while remaining respectful. This approach prevents resistance and creates understanding. People are more likely to respect boundaries that are delivered with composure because the message feels intentional rather than reactive. Composure in public challenges also allows you to make decisions with clearer judgment. When you are influenced by embarrassment or fear, you may choose actions that reflect emotion rather than logic. These choices can lead to regret, especially when made in front of others. But when you stay composed, your decisions come from a grounded place. You take the time to evaluate the situation and act with purpose. This steadiness reduces mistakes and reinforces your reputation as someone who thinks before acting. Another valuable part of composure is the message you send to yourself. Each time you remain calm in a public challenge, you reinforce your belief that you can manage difficult situations. This builds internal confidence. You begin to trust your ability to navigate emotional pressure without losing control. This trust increases your self-respect and strengthens your identity. People who respect themselves naturally earn more respect from others. Public composure also has a calming effect on the environment around you. When a situation becomes tense and you remain steady, others feel encouraged to calm down as well. Your presence acts as a stabilizing force. People look to you for cues on how to react. When you demonstrate composure, you influence the emotional tone of the entire room. This kind of leadership inspires admiration because it shows emotional intelligence and strength. In the end, gaining respect by staying composed in public challenges is about mastering your internal world. It is about guiding your reactions rather than allowing the moment to guide you. It is about showing that your strength comes from discipline, self-awareness, and emotional control. When you remain composed, you protect your dignity, earn the trust of others, and create a presence that commands respect without demanding it. Over time, you become known as someone who can handle pressure with grace. You become someone people turn to during difficult moments. You become someone whose steadiness speaks louder than any emotional outburst ever could.